Hello comrades, it's Captain Communist here, and today I'm going to explain to you all why we should all appreciate the achievements of the Soviet Union and socialism. Why is it that living in an imperialist heartland that I should even care about doing videos throughout this month to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Great Socialist Revolution in Russia and the achievements of the Soviet Union? Well, it's because we need to understand the significance of the Soviet Union. We need to read works of literature produced in the Soviet Union. They portray life under socialism like nothing else can. And we need to read books about the years when socialism was being constructed in the Soviet Union. We need to read books like How the Steel Was Tempered by Nikolai Ostrotsky, or books like Soviet Democracy or The Stalin Era. These are books that describe to you the lives of ordinary people at a time when the Soviet Union was going from strength to strength, from the time of the revolution up until the death of Stalin. If you read these works of literature, if you read the works of eyewitnesses, the Soviet Union was an incredible place to live. These works of literature also reveal how socialism can unlock the tremendous creative powers of working people, fill them with such spirit and enthusiasm for their work, and to give them the feeling that they can really achieve anything that they put their mind to. We also need to distribute these works and ideas because there is a much bigger audience for them than what you might think, especially now in the crisis of capitalism, and also ever since I've left school to go to college, is really providing me with the best opportunity to talk to people, because suddenly people I've talked to in school wouldn't have been able to get past the word socialism and hear anything else that came out of your mouth. Today, however, I can talk to people in college about why I support the DPRK. I can talk to them about building socialism in the Soviet Union. I can talk to them about why I'm defending Stalin, and they'll want to listen. They are interested in answers. Under capitalism, there is no security. Even the wealthiest people under capitalism don't feel secure. Even some well-off middle-class people are just a couple of paychecks away from being on the streets, from losing out on their pension, from not being able to provide their children with what they think they need for a decent life. And those are the good times. And as we see now, you can't rely on the good times under capitalism. There is no safe investment. You play the game every way you're taught and you win. You end up being the lucky few who does everything that you're told and it works out for you. You've got your savings pot. You think you've got what you need for your pension, you invest in a few properties, but tomorrow maybe the properties are not worth anything anymore. Maybe the money in the bank isn't there, or it isn't worth anything anymore. Maybe tomorrow you have to pay for healthcare you never had to pay for before. Maybe your pension is taken away from you, and that is why you can't rely on anything under capitalism, because there is no such thing as security. No matter how hard you work, no matter how much you accumulate to find happiness as you're taught to, you don't feel happy, you don't feel comfortable. Let's compare that with life under socialism. Can you imagine living in a world where every job makes a contribution to building a better life for people? That in itself would be such a great motivator, and it would also unleash the creativity of so many people. It would bring out people's natural collective spirit. I recently made friends in college with a comrade from Romania, and he said to me that when Romania was socialist, there were factories everywhere. Everybody had a job. There was no excuse to be out of work. There was more security. People had a roof over their heads, decent healthcare, decent education, and the economy was much better. Now, however, ever since Romania switched to capitalism in the early 1990s, there has been less security. People don't feel happy. They don't feel secure, they don't feel comfortable, and that is why, according to my Romanian comrade, that 9 Romanians leave the country every hour to move here for better paid jobs and so on. In Cuba, people believe in doing things together to solve problems. The same goes for the DPRK, and I'm sure it was a very similar attitude in the Soviet Union. A socialist society inspires them to build, to achieve. It makes them feel valued. It makes them feel like they are part of something. It makes them feel that their work is useful, because they can see the fruits of their labour in front of them. It comes back to them and their neighbours. Imagine never having to worry about your rent, never having to worry about healthcare, education provision for your children, university fees. Imagine never having to worry about whether or not you'll still have a job tomorrow, never having to worry about whether or not there is going to be food on your family's table today or tomorrow. Because that, my friends, is what socialism is, and more importantly, that is what freedom is. Cuba's achievements in the fields of health and education are relatively widely known now. However, it is not so well understood that it was the Soviet Union that pioneered all of that. It was the Soviet Union that was the first to provide these things, and at the time, not only when they had just fought through great hardships, first the Revolution, then the Civil War, and then the War of Intervention, but when the rest of the world was going through the Great Depression, the rest of the world was thrown into total poverty. The Soviet Union, on the other hand, was going from strength to strength. They were providing facilities, first-class, world-class facilities for ordinary, working-class people of the kind that before had only been dreamed about. Much like the Soviet Union before it, if you go to the DPRK today, something that hits people when they go there, and I'm sorry to say that I never have yet, but something that is always related to me when I listen to people who have been, there are no advertisements on the streets. Can you imagine a world free of that bombardment of rubbish? People don't appreciate how it presses and weighs down on their mentality all of the time, in your face. You have to learn not to look around you. You have to learn to walk around in your own little bubble to keep it out. It's blaring out at you. You're not even free from it at the petrol station, in the shops, on every street corner. They are advertising at you non-stop, all of the time. But to live in a place where not only do you not have that, but you have people's art in the streets, celebrations, statues, posters, artworks celebrating the achievements of you and your fellow people. Ordinary people's buildings were made beautiful and turned into palaces. They have children's palaces in the DPRK, and the Soviet Union did just that sort of thing. They constructed the most incredible artistic buildings like the underground system in Moscow. These are places where ordinary people would go that were made beautiful, to make them feel respected, valued, to make them care about their society, and to make them feel that they in return are cared about. The Soviet Union also provided for mothers and children, which is something that you can't underestimate the impact of. The Soviet Union was one of the first places that really showed that the liberation of women was really about practical things. It's not just about allowing women to take part in jobs, but giving them the freedom to do so. The Soviet Union also provided the best possible childcare, where you would feel happy to leave your children. The Soviet Union provided huge amounts of paid maternity leave, both before and after the baby was born, so that the mother and the baby were healthy. If a woman was pregnant, she would be moved to easier physical work if she was working somewhere that was quite taxing. The Soviet Union really cared about the health of women and children. The Soviet Union set up creches, laundry shops, kindergartens, public dining rooms to free women and allow them to really take their place in society, and also to give children an equal start in life. There was a report published by the World Health Organization back in 2008 that talked about health and inequality in the world, and the conclusion that they came to was somewhere along the lines of, we need socialism. They said that people need jobs, people need decent housing, people need access to culture. They also talked about illness prevention, which was the core principle of the Soviet medical system, and they talked about children needing an equal start in life. There are only socialist countries in the world today that do these things. It's only in Cuba, it's only in the DPRK, where you can see those kinds of programs in action, and it was in the Soviet Union that you saw them first. We currently live in a society that criminally suppresses the creative and productive potential of the masses of humanity. Even the best-off workers often feel isolated and insecure, and a vast majority of workers are only 1 or 2 paychecks away from destitution. Capitalism cannot be solved without a proletariat revolution. We will never have job security, housing security, or secure pensions as long as capitalism exists. Our jobs as communists under capitalism is to use the daily and hourly crisis of capitalism to expose the system for how selfish, corrupt and wasteful it really is. The October Socialist Revolution showed us that socialism can free us all from poverty, cold, disease and hunger.
Overwhelmingly strong, we ain't gonna overthrow them to replace these evil people with another evil type of face. Nah, you see how we do, building Soviets. That means workers' council's powers will be holding it. Don't be afraid when we call for dictatorship.